The motion sensor in warehouse C had been triggering every 6 minutes. Exactly 6. I was staring at the monitor when it happened again. A soft red square blinked on the bottom right screen. Aisle 14. No movement visible. Just tall shelves, stacked boxes, a thin strip of concrete floor stretching into darkness. I leaned closer. The timestamp updated. 2:36:12. Nothing moved. But the sensor had gone off. Again. The air inside the security office felt heavy. The hum of fluorescent lights above me sounded louder than usual. The small desk fan clicked as it rotated left, then right. I checked the log. 2:30. Aisle 14. 2:24. Aisle 14. 2:18. Aisle 14. 6 minutes apart. Perfectly consistent. I swallowed and picked up the radio. Maintenance. You in warehouse C? Static. No one was scheduled tonight. I knew that. I'd approved the roster myself. The red square blinked again. 2:42. 6 minutes. I zoomed the camera in. That's when I saw it. Halfway down the aisle, between two shelves, something darker than the shadows. Almost human-shaped. Standing still, watching the camera, my throat went dry. The timestamp flickered. For a second, just one, the screen showed 2:43 before snapping back to 2:42, and the figure was gone. The motion sensor stopped triggering after that. But when I checked the system log at the end of my shift, something new had been added. 2:48, manual override, security office door. I hadn't left my desk, and no one had come in. That wasn't the first time something happened to me on a night shift. I took the warehouse job because it paid slightly more for nights. Fewer people, less noise, just long hours of watching screens and logging deliveries. It was simple, at least at first. The building was massive, 3 main storage halls, each lit by industrial fluorescent strips that hummed constantly. After midnight, the place felt hollow. Every sound echoed. My routine rarely changed. Patrol at midnight, coffee at 1:15, log check at 2, break at 3. The first disturbance was small. One of the cameras in Hall B would tilt slightly upward around 2:10 a.m. Not enough to notice unless you were paying attention. Just enough that the top shelf cut off part of the frame. I assumed it was loose wiring. I adjusted it. The next night, at 2:10, it tilted again. I stayed in the office and watched it happen in real time. There was no mechanical whir, no visible movement. One frame, it was level. The next frame, it wasn't. The third night, I decided not to adjust it. At 2:10, it tilted down instead, pointing directly at the floor, at the exact spot where I usually stood during my patrol. I didn't mention it to management. I told myself it was malfunctioning equipment. But then, something changed. On my 4th night that week, I skipped my patrol. At 2:10, the camera didn't move. At 2:14, the motion sensor in Hall B triggered. I checked the feed. Nothing there. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Not from the speaker system. From the hall behind the security office. Slow, even, approaching. I opened the office door. The hallway was empty. But at the far end, the emergency exit sign flickered once. Just once. When I returned to my desk, the Hall B camera had tilted again. Downward. Waiting. The aftermath was quiet. No more footsteps, no more tilting. But my routine stopped being mine. Because from then on, if I changed it, if I took my break early or delayed patrol, the sensors in Hall B adjusted to match, like something inside that building had learned my schedule and was keeping it for me. But that wasn't the worst part. The second job was at a small roadside motel on the outskirts of town. Just 12 rooms. Most nights were dead quiet. After midnight, the only sound was wind pressing against the office windows and the low buzz of the soda machine in the lobby. The phone system was outdated. Landlines connected to each room. The front desk had a switchboard. On my 3rd week, around 1:40 a.m., the front desk phone rang. Room 9. I answered. Silence. Front desk, I said. Static. Then a soft clicking sound, like breathing through teeth. I hung up and called room 9 back. No answer. I checked the system log. Room 9 was vacant. I walked outside with the master key. The parking lot was empty. Room 9's curtains were still, lights off. Inside, the room smelled stale, untouched. I unplugged the room phone from the wall before leaving. The next night, at 1:40 a.m., the desk phone rang again. Room 9. I didn't answer immediately. It rang 5 times. 6. 7. Finally, I picked up, Bainance. Then a whisper. My name. Soft. Clear. I dropped the receiver. I checked the maintenance panel. Room 9's phone line showed inactive. I walked back to the room. The phone cord was still unplugged, but the receiver was off the hook. Sitting on the bed. The third night, I waited. 1:40. The phone rang. Room 9. I didn't answer. Instead, I checked the security cameras. Hallway outside room 9. There I was, standing in front of the door, holding the receiver to my ear. But I was still behind the desk. The camera feed flickered, and the version of me slowly turned its head toward the lens. The line disconnected on its own. Management later told me the system had no record of outgoing calls from room 9. But that unplugged phone? It was reconnected the next morning. No one admitted touching it. I quit 2 weeks later. I wish that had been the only thing. The third job was overnight security at a corporate office building. 4 floors, glass walls, motion sensors in every hallway. The building locked automatically at 11 p.m. No one in, no one out. The first disturbance was subtle. The daily digital security log would already have entries before my shift began. Small ones. 1:12, lobby clear. 1:47, stairwell check complete. Exactly the kind of notes I would write, but time-stamped before I arrived. I asked my supervisor. He blamed system glitches. The second week, the entries became more specific. 2:03, don't check conference room B. That wasn't my wording. At 2:03, I went anyway. Conference room B was dark, empty, but one chair was slightly pulled out from the table, facing the door. The third occurrence was personal. 2:58, he's behind you. I was in the lobby when I read that, alone. I didn't turn around. I listened. The air conditioning hummed. Lights buzzed overhead. Then, a faint exhale, right behind my left ear. I spun. Nothing there. When I checked the log again, the message had changed. 3 o'clock. Too slow. The system administrator later confirmed no remote access had occurred, but the log still saved under my user ID, even on nights I wasn't scheduled. The entries continued after I resigned. My former co-worker sent me a screenshot months later. 2:14. He misses this place. I had never told anyone I did. The next job was worse. The hospital had closed its east wing for renovations. My job was simple: patrol the sealed section and ensure no one entered. Hospitals at night are different. Even active ones feel quiet. This one felt abandoned. Machines unplugged, beds stripped, curtains hanging loose. The first night, I heard a monitor beep. Just once. A clean, electronic tone. I followed it to room E17. Empty. No power connected. The second night, the motion sensor outside E17 triggered repeatedly. I checked the camera. The door was slightly ajar. It hadn't been earlier. Inside, the bathroom mirror was fogged, as if someone had just showered. The third night, I stayed near E17. Waiting. At 3:12 a.m., the heart monitor beeped again, this time in a steady rhythm. Beep, pause. Beep, pause. But there was no monitor, no patient. I stepped into the room. The sound stopped. The mirror cleared. And in the reflection, I wasn't alone. Someone stood behind me, close enough that I should have felt breath. I turned. Empty room. When I looked back at the mirror, the reflection lagged a second behind me, then caught up. The wing was reopened months later. Room E17 had been sealed due to water damage. But I still hear that steady beep sometimes, in complete silence. But the final story is the one that still keeps me awake. The last night shift I ever worked was in a downtown office tower. High-rise, 30 floors. I monitored cameras from a small room on the ground level. The building had an internal messaging system. Staff could leave notes for security. One night at 2:22 a.m., a message appeared. "Why are you on floor 12?" I wasn't. I checked the camera. Floor 12 hallway. There I was, standing near the elevators, facing away from the camera, not moving. I froze. The version of me on screen slowly lifted its hand and pressed the elevator call button. In the security office, the real elevator dinged. Arriving at ground floor. Doors sliding open. No one inside. The message system updated. "Come up." I disabled the elevator remotely. The lights flickered. For a moment, every camera feed showed the same image. Floor 12. Me. Standing closer to the lens now, smiling faintly. Then the screens returned to normal, except one. Security office, interior. The camera behind me, showing my chair. Empty, while I was sitting in it. The final message appeared at 2:28. "Switch." The lights went out. Total darkness. When power returned seconds later, everything was normal. No messages, no footage saved. Except for one archived clip automatically stored by the system, time-stamped 2:27. It showed me walking into the elevator, looking directly into the lens, and whispering, "See you tomorrow." I didn't go back. I still don't know if something followed me home, or if it stayed there. Night shifts feel different. Maybe it's because the world isn't meant to be empty. Buildings aren't designed to breathe alone. When the noise fades, when routines repeat in silence, something else seems to settle in. Something patient, watching, learning schedules, testing boundaries. I've worked enough overnight jobs to know this. The dark doesn't always hide things. Sometimes it reveals them. If you made it this far, you probably understand why I don't work nights anymore. If you enjoy real, slow-burn horror like this, you can support the channel by liking the video and subscribing for more true scary stories every week. And I'm curious, what's the strangest thing you've ever experienced late at night?